What if the reason you suffer is not because people hurt you, but because you are trying to hold what was never meant to stay? In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, attachment is the root of suffering, not love, not connection, not care. Attachment, the desperate need for things to go your way, for people to act how you expect, for life to follow your plan. But life is not a possession, and people are not yours to control. Today we enter 6 timeless Buddhist lessons that will free your heart from what you cannot change and return you to inner peace. Sit quietly, breathe slowly. Let us begin. The first truth you must face, gently, honestly, without fear, is this: everything you are trying to hold is already changing. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, the law of impermanence, anicca, is not a philosophy. It is reality itself. Look closely at your life. The people you love today are not the same as they were 5 years ago. Their thoughts have shifted. Their priorities have evolved. Their wounds have deepened or healed. And you are not the same either. Yet the mind creates a quiet demand. Stay the way you were. Feel the way you used to feel. Be who I need you to be. And when reality refuses, suffering begins. But impermanence is not an enemy. It is the rhythm of existence. The sun rises and sets. The tide comes in and goes out. The body ages. The heart transforms. Nothing in this universe was designed to freeze. Imagine standing in a river, trying to grab the water as it flows past you. You tighten your hands, you strain your muscles, you fight the current. But the river does not resist you. It simply continues. Your exhaustion does not come from the river moving. It comes from you refusing to let it. This is how attachment forms. You do not just love someone. You cling to who they were. You do not just experience a moment. You try to preserve it. You do not just feel happiness. You demand it never leave. And so when change arrives, it feels like betrayal. But it is not betrayal. It is nature. Even the pain you feel right now is impermanent. Even the longing, even the disappointment. The Buddha encouraged his disciples to meditate on this deeply. This too will pass, not as a cold dismissal of emotion, but as a doorway to freedom. When you truly see impermanence, something powerful happens. You stop demanding permanence from people. You stop expecting stability from unstable conditions. You stop being shocked by change. And instead of clinging, you begin appreciating. You love more gently. You speak more kindly. You forgive more quickly. Because you understand, this moment will not return in the same form. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop insisting. It means you allow life to unfold without gripping it so tightly that it wounds you. A flower blooms. You admire it. You breathe in its fragrance. But you do not scream at it when it begins to fade. You understand the fading was always part of the blooming. So when someone changes, when circumstances shift, when plans dissolve, pause. Ask yourself, am I suffering because this changed, or because I believed it was supposed to stay? Impermanence is not here to punish you. It is here to awaken you. Because once you deeply accept that nothing lasts forever, you stop trying to possess the world, and you begin learning how to experience it. And that is where peace quietly begins. If impermanence teaches you that everything changes, karma teaches you that not everything is yours to carry. One of the most liberating and most difficult realizations in Buddhist wisdom is this: every being walks their own path. You may walk beside someone. You may love them. You may guide them. You may sacrifice for them. But you cannot walk their karma for them. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, karma is not punishment. It is not fate carved in stone. It is cause and effect. Intentions create actions. Actions create consequences. Consequences shape experience. And every person lives inside the field of their own intentions. Yet the human mind resists this truth. We think, if I explain it better, they will understand. If I love them harder, they will change. If I sacrifice more, they will finally see. If I worry enough, I can prevent the outcome. But worry is not control. Fear is not influence. Attachment is not transformation. Trying to control someone else's path is like trying to rearrange the clouds with your hands. You may move your arms wildly, but the sky remains untouched. Sometimes the deepest suffering comes not from what others do, but from watching them choose a path you would never choose for yourself. You see their mistakes forming. You see the consequences approaching. You see the storm gathering, and you feel helpless. That helplessness is where attachment reveals itself. Because beneath it is a belief, I should be able to stop this. But should you? The Buddha never taught that we must control others to love them. He taught awareness, compassion, and wise action. You can advise without attachment to being obeyed. You can support without attachment to being appreciated. You can care without attachment to controlling the outcome. This is strength. There is a quiet arrogance hidden inside control. It whispers, I know what is best for everyone. But wisdom whispers something softer. I can only govern my own mind. When you release the illusion of controlling others, something unexpected happens. Your energy returns. Think about how much of your life has been spent trying to manage other people's emotions, trying to soften their reactions, trying to predict their behavior, trying to prevent their disappointment, trying to keep them from leaving. It is exhausting, and still, it never guarantees safety, because their mind is their territory. Their karma is their journey. Their awakening, if it comes, will come when their own insight ripens. You cannot meditate for someone else. You cannot awaken for someone else. You cannot force clarity into a closed mind. Trying to do so only entangles you deeper. Detachment in this lesson does not mean indifference. It means clarity. You recognize the boundary between compassion and control. Compassion says, I wish for your freedom from suffering. Control says, I need you to behave in a way that reduces my fear. And most of the time, what we call helping is actually an attempt to calm our own anxiety. When you truly understand karma, you stop taking everything personally. If someone acts harshly, that is the fruit of their mental state. If someone walks away, that is the direction of their causes and conditions. If someone misunderstands you, that is the lens through which their mind sees. You can respond wisely, but you do not need to absorb their choices as your burden. There is a powerful image in Buddhist contemplation. A stone is dropped into water. Ripples move outward, but the water does not chase the stone. It allows the movement and then returns to stillness. Be like that water. When someone's actions create ripples in your life, you acknowledge them, you adjust if needed, but you do not dive into the depths trying to rearrange the stone, because the stone was never yours. Freedom begins when you understand. Your responsibility ends at your intention. You are responsible for speaking truthfully, for acting ethically, for cultivating patience, for guarding your own mind. But you are not responsible for how others interpret you. You are not responsible for the timing of their growth. You are not responsible for rescuing someone from lessons they must experience. Even the Buddha did not force enlightenment upon anyone. He taught, he demonstrated, he offered the path, but walking it was always a personal choice. And this is where deep detachment forms. When you stop fighting other people's karma, you stop drowning in frustration. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop trying to design outcomes that belong to forces larger than you. Instead, you return inward. You refine your own heart. You steady your own mind. You become disciplined, not in controlling the world, but in mastering your reaction to it. And when you master your reaction, no one else's chaos can fully rule you. That is power, quiet power, unshakable power, the kind that does not dominate others, but liberates you. So ask yourself gently, where in your life are you trying to carry a karma that is not yours? And what would happen if you simply set it down? This lesson is the one most people resist because it challenges something deeply emotional. You say you love them, you say you care, you say you cannot let go because your heart is involved. But Buddhist wisdom asks you a quiet question. Is it love or is it attachment? In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, attachment, upadana, is one of the main causes of suffering, and attachment often disguises itself as devotion. Pavobian attachment says, I need you to stay so I can feel secure. I need you to respond so I can feel valued. I need you to choose me so I can feel complete. I need you to behave the way I expect so I can feel safe. Look carefully. Every sentence begins with I need. That is not love. That is dependency tied to fear. True love, in Buddhist understanding, is closer to metta, loving kindness. Loving kindness does not imprison. It does not demand. It does not say, be mine or I suffer. It says, may you be well. May you be free from suffering, even if your path no longer includes me. That is a radical kind of love, and it feels almost impossible when your heart is involved, because attachment feels intense. It feels passionate. It feels urgent. Attachment creates obsession. It creates anxiety. It creates jealousy. It creates the constant scanning of messages, tone, body language. Attachment says, if they pull away, I panic. Love says, if they pull away, I breathe. Attachment grips. Love opens. Imagine holding water in your palm. If you close your fist tightly, the water spills out. If you keep your hand gently open, it can rest there naturally. Attachment squeezes life. Love allows life. Many relationships do not suffer from lack of love. They suffer from fear of loss, and fear turns love into control. You want them to text faster. You want them to reassure you more. You want them to prioritize you always. You want them to think the way you think. And when they do not, you feel hurt. But what is really hurt? Your expectation. The image you created of how they should behave. Attachment creates an image, a mental version of the person. And you begin relating to that image more than to reality. When they deviate from that image, you feel betrayed. But they did not betray you. They simply acted according to their own mind. Attachment is subtle. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, holding on to someone who has emotionally left, replaying old memories to avoid present emptiness, refusing to accept change, waiting for an apology that may never come, hoping they will return to who they once were. But impermanence has already moved forward, and attachment refuses to follow. In Buddhist teaching, clinging creates suffering because it fights the flow of reality. You are trying to freeze a moving world. Even the person you love is changing in every moment. Their cells are aging, their thoughts are shifting, their desires are evolving, and you are too. Yet attachment says, stay the same. This is why attachment eventually becomes painful, because it demands something impossible. Detachment does not mean you stop loving. It means you stop demanding ownership of what was never yours to possess. You can share life with someone, you can build memories, you can grow together. But you cannot own their mind. You cannot own their heart. You cannot own their destiny. The Buddha never encouraged cold isolation. He encouraged wise love. Love that is compassionate but not dependent. Love that supports but does not suffocate. Love that gives freedom instead of chains. If someone chooses to stay, you appreciate it. If someone chooses to leave, you grieve, but you do not collapse. Because your identity is not built entirely on their presence. That is the key. Attachment makes someone the center of your stability. Love keeps your stability rooted within yourself. When attachment dominates, Your mood rises and falls with their behavior. When love is balanced, your peace remains grounded even during conflict. You can feel sadness without losing yourself. You can feel disappointment without hatred. You can feel longing without desperation. This is emotional maturity in Buddhist practice. Observe your heart honestly. When you think about someone you cannot detach from, ask, do I want their happiness or do I want my comfort? If they found happiness in a way that did not include you, would you still wish them well? That question reveals everything. Attachment fears replacement. Love celebrates freedom. Attachment clings to what was. Love appreciates what is. Attachment says, without you I am nothing. Love says, I am whole, and I share that wholeness with you. This does not happen overnight. Detaching from attachment requires mindfulness. You sit with your fear, you sit with your insecurity, you sit with your loneliness, and instead of running toward control, you breathe through it. You begin to understand that the anxiety was not proof of love. It was proof of clinging, and clinging is heavy. When you loosen your grip, something surprising happens. You feel lighter, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped fighting reality. A bird in a cage may stay, but it does not sing freely. A bird released may fly away, but if it chooses to return, it returns freely. Detachment allows authentic connection because it removes fear from the foundation. When fear leaves, love becomes gentle, steady, peaceful, and even if loss comes, as impermanence promises it will, you do not shatter. You bow to the experience. You honor what was shared. You allow grief to move through you, but you do not chain yourself to what is already transformed. That is freedom, not coldness, not indifference, but compassionate non-clinging. And when you finally understand the difference between attachment and love, you no longer beg life to stay. You simply open your hands and let it rest there as long as it chooses. If attachment teaches you why you cling, this lesson teaches you where suffering is truly created. Not in the person, not in the situation, not in the loss, but in the mind. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, there is a powerful understanding. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. This does not mean pain is small. It does not mean heartbreak is imaginary. It does not mean betrayal does not wound. Pain is real, but suffering begins when the mind resists reality. Imagine two arrows. The first arrow is the event. Someone leaves, someone lies, a plan collapses, a message never comes. That is the first arrow. It hurts. But then comes the second arrow. Why did this happen to me? They shouldn't have done that. I will never be happy again. This always happens. I am not enough. The second arrow is the story, and unlike the first arrow, which may land once, the second arrow is shot repeatedly by your own mind. Again, and again, and again, you replay the conversation. You imagine different outcomes. You build imaginary arguments in your head. You predict future disasters. You create scenarios that have not even happened. And slowly the mind turns a moment into a lifetime of suffering. The world did not do that. The mind did. This is not blame. This is empowerment. Because if suffering is created in the mind, it can also be transformed there. The Buddha emphasized mindfulness, sati, as the path to freedom. Mindfulness is not about controlling thoughts. It is about observing them. When a painful thought appears, instead of becoming it, you watch it. Instead of saying, "This is me," you say, "This is a thought." Instead of saying, "I am abandoned," you say, "The mind is producing a story of abandonment." That small shift creates space, and in that space, peace can enter. The mind is incredibly convincing. It speaks with authority. It says you must fix this immediately. It says, you cannot rest until this is resolved. It says, you are incomplete. until this changes. But when you sit quietly in meditation, something astonishing happens. You see thoughts rise and fall without your effort, without your control. A worry appears. It stays for a moment, then it dissolves. An image surfaces. It lingers, then it fades. If thoughts were permanent, they would never disappear. But they do. This reveals something powerful. Thoughts are events in the mind, not truths carved into reality. Yet most suffering comes from believing every thought. If someone does not respond to you quickly, the mind creates meaning. They are ignoring me. They don't take care. I did something wrong. But that is not reality. That is interpretation. The mind fills gaps with fear and then reacts to its own invention. The Buddha described the untamed mind as restless, wandering, difficult to control. It jumps from memory to fear, from regret to imagination, from yesterday to tomorrow, rarely resting in now. And detachment becomes impossible if you are enslaved by your own thoughts. Because the mind will constantly convince you to hold tighter, to react faster, to defend harder, to prove yourself, to chase closure, to demand certainty. But mindfulness invites you to pause before you send that message, before you argue, before you assume, before you spiral. Pause, breathe, observe. Ask yourself, is this pain coming from reality or from my resistance to it? There is a difference between experiencing sadness and becoming consumed by it. Sadness says, this hurts. Suffering says, this should not have happened. The word should is often the birthplace of suffering. Reality does not obey your expectations. Reality unfolds according to causes and conditions. When you argue with what already is, you suffer. When you accept what already is, you gain clarity. Acceptance does not mean approval, it means recognition. If rain falls, arguing with the sky will not stop it. But you can choose how you respond. You can stand in anger, or you can seek shelter. The mind often confuses control with safety. It believes if it analyzes enough, worries enough, predicts enough, it can avoid pain. But excessive thinking is not protection. It is self-torment. There is a reason Buddhist practice returns again and again to the breath. The breath is always here, not in the past, not in the imagined future. Here, when you return to the breath, you step out of the storm of thought. You create a gap between stimulus and reaction. In that gap lies freedom. Most people do not suffer because of what happened. They suffer because they relive it hundreds of times. Each replay strengthens attachment. Each replay deepens resentment. Each replay reinforces identity. I am the one who was wronged. I am the one who was left. I am the one who failed. But identity built from pain becomes a prison. Mindfulness gently dissolves that prison. You begin to see, this is a moment of hurt, not my entire self. This is an experience, not my definition. This is change, not destruction. And when you stop feeding thoughts with constant attention, they weaken. Like a fire without wood, attachment becomes possible not because the world changed, but because your relationship to your thoughts changed. When someone behaves in a way you dislike, you still feel emotion, but instead of reacting instantly, you observe, anger is arising, fear is arising, disappointment is arising. Notice the language. Not I am anger, but anger is arising. This subtle shift creates spaciousness. You are no longer drowning inside emotion, you are witnessing it. And when you witness something clearly, you are not enslaved by it. The mind creates suffering when it clings to preference. I prefer this person to act differently. I prefer this situation to go my way. I prefer certainty. Preference is natural. Clinging to preference creates pain. When you release the demand that reality must match your internal script, something softens. You realize the world is not attacking you. It is simply unfolding. and you are free to respond wisely. This is why detachment is not about distancing yourself from life. It is about untangling yourself from mental stories. When the mind becomes calm, even difficult circumstances lose their power to destabilize you. You may still feel waves, but you are no longer the wave. You are the ocean, not you one pitabi. It's bound a pitabi, steady, spacious. And when you understand that suffering begins in the mind, you stop chasing external solutions for internal storms. You stop trying to control people to calm your anxiety. You stop trying to control situations to silence your fear. Instead, you turn inward. You train the mind. You cultivate awareness. You practice returning to the present moment. And slowly, gently, powerfully, you realize that the peace you were trying to force from the outside was always available within. By now, you have seen how impermanence moves everything, how karma belongs to each individual, how attachment disguises itself as love, how suffering is born in the mind. But here is the deeper realization. You have been searching for peace in the wrong direction. Most people believe peace will come when they finally behave the way I want. The situation finally stabilizes. The apology finally arrives. The uncertainty finally ends. The future finally becomes clear. But peace built on conditions is fragile. It is like building a house on moving sand. Because conditions are unstable, people change, economies shift, health fluctuates, opinions evolve, feelings transform. If your peace depends on controlling these forces, you will always feel slightly anxious, even in good moments, because deep down, you know they can change. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, liberation does not come from mastering the world, it comes from mastering the self. There is a quiet misunderstanding about detachment. Some believe it means withdrawing. Some believe it means not caring. Some believe it means becoming emotionally cold. But true detachment is inner stability. It is being like the lotus. The lotus grows in muddy water. It does not demand the mud to become clean. It does not curse the darkness below. It rises anyway, untouched, unstained. That is the image of inner peace. The world may remain messy. People may remain unpredictable. Situations may remain uncertain, but your mind can remain steady. Imagine two people facing the same storm. One panics, one breathes. The storm is identical. The difference is internal. You have spent so much energy trying to arrange external reality, trying to secure loyalty, trying to prevent abandonment, trying to guarantee outcomes, trying to predict what others will do, trying to ensure nothing unexpected happens. But the world does not offer guarantees. And chasing guarantees creates tension. The deeper question is, why do you feel unsafe without control? Often the need for control is rooted in fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone, fear of uncertainty. Control feels like protection, but it is temporary. Even if you manage to influence circumstances for a while, something else will eventually shift, and your anxiety will return. True stability cannot be built on what is unstable. It must be built within. Inner peace begins when you shift your focus from how do I control this, to advice. Suspicion, fear, how do I respond wisely to this? That shift is everything. When someone disappoints you, instead of trying to force them to change, you strengthen your own clarity. When uncertainty arises, instead of demanding certainty, you cultivate patience. When loss occurs, instead of collapsing into despair, you practice acceptance. This does not remove emotion, it refines it. A steady mind does not mean a silent heart. It means a heart that feels deeply without being destroyed. The Buddha spoke often about the disciplined mind as the greatest ally. An undisciplined mind drags you through desire, anger, jealousy, fear, A disciplined mind observes these states without surrendering to them. If someone criticizes you, the undisciplined mind reacts instantly. I must defend myself. The disciplined mind pauses. Is this criticism useful? If someone leaves, the undisciplined mind shouts, I cannot survive this. The disciplined mind reflects, this is painful, but I remain whole. That inner strength is cultivated, not given, through mindfulness, through meditation, through reflection, through repeated practice of returning to the present moment. You may ask, but how do I actually build this inner stability? You begin small. You notice when your mood shifts based on someone's message. You notice when your day is ruined because of someone's tone. You notice when your thoughts spiral about future possibilities. Instead of blaming them, you gently turn inward. Why does this trigger me? What am I afraid of losing? What belief is being threatened? Often control hides a fragile identity. If they leave, it means I am unworthy. If they disagree, it means I am not respected. If they change, it means I am not enough. These beliefs create dependency on external validation. Inner peace dissolves that dependency. You begin to see that your worth is not determined by someone else's behavior. Your stability is not determined by someone else's consistency. Your completeness is not determined by someone else's presence. When you truly internalize this, something shifts. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop demanding certainty. You stop trying to shape every outcome. You begin trusting your ability to handle whatever arises. That trust is freedom. Control tries to prevent difficulty. Wisdom prepares you to face it. There is a profound calm that comes from knowing I cannot control everything, but I can control how I meet it. When you cultivate this mindset, relationships become lighter. You love without fear of collapse. You care without losing yourself. You engage without obsession. And when change inevitably comes, because it always does, you bend instead of break. Think of a mountain. Storms pass over it. Wind strikes it. Rain falls upon it. Yet it remains grounded, not because it stops the storm, but because it is rooted deeply. Inner peace is that rootedness. You do not stop life from happening. You become stable enough to experience it fully. There is extraordinary power in releasing the illusion that you must manage everything. It frees mental space. It frees emotional energy. It frees attention. Instead of obsessing over others' actions, you refine your own character. Instead of predicting every possible outcome, you cultivate resilience. Instead of fearing change, you align with it, and gradually your peace becomes less fragile, less dependent, less reactive. It becomes quiet, steady, present. When peace lives inside you, external chaos loses its authority. You may still prefer certain outcomes. You may still feel sadness, joy, frustration, love, but you are not enslaved by them. They move through you. They do not define you. This is the maturity of detachment. Not escape, not indifference, but grounded presence. The world remains unpredictable. People remain free to choose. Circumstances remain unstable, but you remain centered. And in that centeredness, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to possess life, and you begin truly living it. There comes a moment on the path of wisdom when you realize something profound. You are not suffering because you cannot hold on. You are suffering because you refuse to release. Letting go is often misunderstood. People imagine it as weakness. They imagine it as surrender. They imagine it as giving up. But in the teachings of Gautama Buddha, letting go is strength. It is clarity. It is liberation. And above all, it is compassion directed inward. For a long time, you may have believed that holding on proves loyalty, that enduring pain proves devotion, that waiting proves love, that sacrificing your peace proves your depth. But if holding on is destroying your inner balance, It is not noble. It is self-harm disguised as dedication. Letting go does not mean the experience did not matter. It does not mean the connection was meaningless. It does not mean the memories disappear. It means you choose not to let what has already passed control what is still alive within you. There is a subtle cruelty in refusing to release. You keep replaying the same scene, the same argument, the same goodbye, the same silence, and every replay tightens the knot inside your chest. You tell yourself, I just need closure. I just need one more conversation. I just need them to understand. But sometimes the mind uses closure as an excuse to avoid acceptance. Acceptance is quieter. It says, this happened. It hurts. And yet I release it. Letting go begins with honesty. You acknowledge that you cannot change the past. You acknowledge that you cannot control another's mind. You acknowledge that not every story ends the way you imagined. And instead of resisting these truths, you bow to them. This bow is not defeat. It is wisdom. When you cling to what is already gone, you live in memory. When you cling to what has not happened, you live in anxiety. Letting go returns you to the present. And the present is the only place where life exists. Sometimes you are not holding on to the person. You are holding on to the version of yourself you were when they were there. The version that felt hopeful, desired, certain, safe. When they left, that version seemed to vanish. And so you try to hold the memory, hoping to recover that feeling. But identity built on external presence is fragile. True stability must be built from awareness. You are still whole. Even if someone walked away, you are still worthy. Even if someone failed to see it, you are still complete. Even if a chapter ended unexpectedly, the mind resists letting go because it fears emptiness. It fears silence. It fears the space that remains after something ends. But that space is not a void. It is an opening for growth, an opening for clarity, an opening for transformation. In meditation, when a thought arises and passes, you do not chase it. You allow it to dissolve. Letting go in life is the same practice. An experience arose. It stayed for a time. Now it dissolves. But clinging to it does not bring it back. It only prolongs suffering. There is deep compassion in saying to yourself, I no longer choose to carry this. Not because it was small, but because you deserve peace. You have carried anger long enough. You have carried disappointment long enough. You have carried regret long enough. You have carried longing long enough. At some point, the weight becomes unnecessary. Imagine walking for miles with a heavy stone in your hands. At first, you believe it is important. But as exhaustion grows, you realize the stone serves no purpose. You can continue suffering under its weight, or you can place it down. Letting go is placing the stone down. It does not erase the journey. It simply prevents further strain. Compassion toward others is praised, but compassion toward yourself is often forgotten. Why are you patient with others' mistakes, yet ruthless with your own heart? Why do you allow others to move forward, yet chain yourself to yesterday? Self-compassion says, I am allowed to move on. I am allowed to heal. I am allowed to release. There is no virtue in permanent suffering. The Buddha did not teach endurance of unnecessary pain. He taught the cessation of suffering. Letting go is the doorway to that cessation. You may ask, but how do I actually let go? You begin by observing the attachment without judgment. Notice the desire to revisit the past. Notice the urge to send one more message. Notice the fantasy of how it could have been. Instead of acting immediately, sit with the feeling. Breathe. Feel it fully, without suppression, without drama. Just awareness. Often, beneath attachment lies fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear of uncertainty. When you face that fear directly, it weakens. Avoidance strengthens it. Presence dissolves it. Letting go is not a single dramatic moment. It is a series of small choices. Choosing not to reopen the wound, choosing not to stalk old memories, choosing not to replay the pain, choosing to invest energy in growth instead. Each small choice builds freedom. There is a quiet dignity in release. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to prove it. You simply feel the grip loosening, and with that loosening comes lightness, a surprising calm, a subtle expansion inside the chest. Breathing becomes easier, thoughts become slower, sleep becomes deeper, because the mind is no longer wrestling with what cannot be changed. Letting go also transforms how you relate to future experiences. When you understand that everything is impermanent, you love more gently, you appreciate more sincerely, you cling less desperately, you fear loss less intensely, because you know that endings are natural. You know that change is not personal. You know that holding tighter does not prevent departure. There is freedom in loving without possession, in caring without control, in experiencing without grasping. Letting go teaches you that your peace is more valuable than your attachment, that your clarity is more important than your pride, that your inner stability is worth more than any external validation. And paradoxically, when you release desperation, you become more attractive to life, because you are no longer demanding, you are no longer chasing, you are no longer forcing, you are aligned with flow. The river moves, and you move with it, not resisting, not clinging to old banks, just flowing. This does not mean you never feel sadness again. It means sadness no longer defines you. You feel it, you honor it, and then you allow it to pass. Just like a cloud crossing the sky, just like a wave returning to the ocean, just like a season changing without apology. Letting go is trusting that what is meant to remain will remain naturally, and what leaves was never yours to imprison. It is stepping into the unknown without panic. It is accepting uncertainty without collapse. It is releasing the illusion that your happiness depends on one specific outcome. And when you reach this understanding, a profound peace settles in. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" And you begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" You stop resisting endings, and you start embracing growth. You stop gripping tightly, and you open your hands. And in that open space, something beautiful happens. You realize that nothing was ever truly yours to control, and yet your peace was always yours to cultivate. This is the highest freedom, not controlling others, not preventing change, not guaranteeing permanence, but standing calmly in the middle of impermanence, soft, steady, unburdened. Letting go is not loss. It is return. Return to yourself. Return to presence. Return to peace. If impermanence loosened your grip, if karma humbled your need to control, if attachment revealed its disguise, if mindfulness showed you where suffering begins, if inner stability rooted you like a mountain, if letting go lightened your heart, then this final lesson completes the circle. Become like the sky. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, freedom is not found by rearranging the clouds of life. Freedom is found by realizing you are not the clouds. You are the sky. Clouds appear, they gather, they darken, they storm, they dissolve. The sky remains untouched. Right now your thoughts are clouds. Your emotions are clouds. Your relationships are clouds. Your circumstances are clouds. They move through you, but they are not you. Most suffering comes from mistaken identity. You believe, "I am my heartbreak, I am my failure, I am my rejection, I am my anxiety." But these are passing weather patterns in the vast space of awareness. The Buddha taught non-self, anatta, not to erase you but to free you. What you call me is a collection of changing experiences. Sensations arise, feelings shift, perceptions change, memories fade. Nothing inside you is fixed, and yet something witnesses it all. That witnessing presence, calm, aware, spacious, is like the sky. When someone insults you, anger arises. If you identify with it, you become the storm. If you observe it, you remain the sky watching thunder pass. When someone leaves, sadness arises. If you cling to it, you drown in rain. If you allow it, it becomes a cloud drifting across your awareness. The practice of detachment reaches its highest form here. Not just releasing people, not just accepting change, but releasing identification with every passing state. Imagine standing beneath a vast open sky. Birds cross it, planes cut through it. Clouds gather and separate, yet the sky never resists. It does not say, stay. It does not say, do not leave. It does not panic when storms form. It allows. Allowance is strength. Allowance is maturity. Allowance is spiritual freedom. You cannot stop emotions from arising, but you can stop becoming them. You cannot stop change from happening, but you can stop collapsing under it. You cannot stop people from acting according to their minds, but you can stop making their behavior your identity. The sky does not chase the clouds. Why do you chase thoughts? Why do you chase explanations? Why do you chase reassurance? Every time you chase, you shrink. Every time you allow, you expand. Non-clinging does not mean passivity. It means participation without possession. You live fully. You love deeply. You work sincerely. You speak honestly. But you do not cling to results. You do not anchor your worth to outcomes. You do not imprison your peace inside someone else's approval. This is the middle path. Not indifference. Not obsession. Balanced engagement. A mind trained in non-clinging moves through life lightly. Praise comes, it smiles. Criticism comes. It reflects. Gain comes. It appreciates. Loss comes, it breathes. Because it knows all are temporary. The Buddha described worldly experiences as pairs, pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute. These pairs rotate endlessly. If your happiness rises and falls with each pair, you will never rest. But if you remain centered, like the sky, you experience them without bondage. Imagine someone you once could not detach from. Now imagine observing that attachment as a cloud. Instead of saying, "This is my forever," you say, "This is a feeling passing through." Immediately, something softens. The grip loosens. Space appears. Space is powerful. Space allows clarity. Space allows breath. Space allows wisdom. Without space, emotion becomes overwhelming. With space, emotion becomes manageable. Meditation cultivates this spaciousness. You sit, thoughts come. You do not chase. You do not suppress. You watch. Gradually, you see their impermanent nature. Gradually, you see that nothing holds permanent authority over you. That realization transforms everything. The need to control weakens. The fear of abandonment softens. The urgency to secure outcomes fades. You become grounded, not because life is predictable, but because you are spacious. There is an extraordinary peace in knowing I can experience anything without being destroyed by it. Loss may visit you, it will not own you. Change may shake you, it will not define you. People may misunderstand you, it will not erase you, because you are not the passing events. You are the awareness in which they occur. This is advanced detachment, not pushing life away, not hiding from emotion, but remaining vast enough to hold it all. When someone leaves your life, instead of clinging to their absence, you let their memory pass like a sunset, beautiful, temporary, complete. When uncertainty arises, instead of demanding answers, you rest in not knowing. Not knowing is not weakness, it is openness. The sky does not need to know where each cloud is going. It simply remains open. Openness is courage. Openness is faith in impermanence. Openness is trust in your own resilience. The more you practice being the sky, the less frightened you become of storms. Storms are natural. They come, they go. They do not damage the sky itself. And neither do experiences damage your deepest nature. At your core, beneath thoughts and emotions, there is stillness, calm, presence. That stillness has always been there, even in chaos, even in heartbreak, even in confusion. You may not have noticed it because the clouds were loud, but it was there, waiting. Detachment ultimately returns you to that stillness. You stop chasing happiness externally. You stop trying to engineer permanence. You stop bargaining with reality, and instead, you cultivate vastness. In vastness, nothing feels suffocating. In vastness, pain has room to move. In vastness, love is free from fear. This does not make you cold. It makes you stable. You can love without clinging. You can give without expectation. You can receive without dependency. You can release without bitterness, because your center is no longer outside you, it is within. Imagine walking through life with this understanding. Someone praises you, you smile. Someone criticizes you, you reflect. Someone stays, you appreciate. Someone leaves, you bow internally and continue walking, not because you do not care, but because you are no longer imprisoned by impermanence. You are the sky. Experiences are weather. Weather changes. Sky remains. This is the final liberation of detachment, not isolation or not withdrawal, but expansive presence. When you become like the sky, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to own life, and you start belonging to it, fully, peacefully, unclenched. And in that unclenched state, you realize the deepest truth. Nothing was ever truly yours to control, and yet everything was always available for you to experience, freely, lightly, like clouds passing through an endless sky. There was never anything wrong with your heart. It only tried to hold what it feared losing. It tried to control what it did not understand. It tried to secure what was never meant to be permanent. But now you see more clearly. Impermanence is not your enemy. It is the rhythm of existence. Karma is not your burden to manage. It is each being sip's own unfolding. Attachment is not love. It is fear wearing the mask of devotion. Suffering is not created by the world. It is shaped by the stories of the mind. Peace is not found in control. It is cultivated within. Letting go is not weakness. It is compassion for your own spirit, and becoming like the sky is the highest freedom. In the wisdom of Gautama Buddha, liberation was never about escaping life. It was about seeing it clearly, seeing that everything arises and passes, seeing that clinging tightens suffering, seeing that awareness softens it. You do not need to harden your heart to detach. You only need to open your hands. What stays will stay. What leaves was never yours to imprison. You are allowed to love. You are allowed to care. You are allowed to feel deeply. But you are no longer required to suffer endlessly for what you cannot control. The river flows. The seasons turn. Clouds gather and dissolve. And you steady, aware, present. Remain. Not frozen. Not grasping. Not afraid of change. Just breathing. Just witnessing, just living. So tonight, before you sleep, sit quietly for a moment. Ask yourself gently, what am I still trying to control that life has already asked me to release? And when the answer rises, do not judge it, do not fight it. Simply breathe and let it drift across the vast sky of your awareness. Because the peace you were searching for was never in their hands. It was always within yours.